Okay, welcome to our Erev Shabbat Parashat class, Parashat Vayishlah, the reunification of brothers. We have, in the midst of a very, very eventful parasha, a reunification of two long-lost brothers, namely Yaakov and Esav. And there was a very interesting, you can even say heartwarming, certainly deep exchange between the two brothers in a matter of 12, 13, 14 Pesukim. And they go back and forth. And it's difficult to understand how sincere it is, conversation, and then try to figure out not just what each one of them are up to, but really find that there are historical ramifications and implications, especially from the perspective of Yaakov Abinu, in some of the insinuations made in these statements, and really the symbolism, powerful symbolism, behind some of the sentiments in this conversation. So let's begin. We're on Parshat Vayishlah. We're in Perek Lamed Gimel, chapter 33. We know that, of course, Yaakov prepared to see his brother because he heard there was 400 people greeting him. There's some fear, and he had sent an entourage of different groups of people to offer gifts of appeasement, you can say, to Esav, and they each came, presented themselves before him. And then finally, the family of Yaakov Abinu, the wives and the children, came and appeared before Esav. And it says in Pasuk Gimal that Yaakov decided to be the leader of the family and take no chances, and to stand and walk and present himself in front of them. And so Pasuk Gimal says that he passed before them, the rest of the family, and he bowed 7 times as he sees Esav from a distance, and he is drawing nearer to him. He's bowing as he is approaching. 1, 2, until 7 bows. And then finally, Pasuk Dalas, we're going to pick this exchange up. Vayaros Esav l'charato. Esav sees him. He rushes to greet him. Vayahabekehu. He hugs him. Vayipul al savarav vayishakehu. And he falls on him, so to speak. They embrace, and he kisses him. And they're crying. We're really curious to see to think and imagine what that scene looks like, and the intensity of that crying, the sincerity of that crying or lack thereof. Was it real? Was it not? We'll ask a few questions and then we'll backtrack and try to unravel them. And then it says in Pasuk He, which I'll paraphrase, he says he looks up and he sees the Nashim, Miladim, the wives, the children. He says, Mi elelach. He had seen the entourage that reached him prior with certain gifts and offerings, but maybe that was just wealth. He wasn't aware of this large, family of these your workers. He said, no, these are the children that God granted me, he told him. Then came these Bilhan, her children, Zilpah, Leah, children, Rachel and Yosef, Rachel and her child, Yosef, each approaching Esav very respectfully. And that brings us to Pasuk Het, where Esav then says, Vayomed, what's the meaning of this entire, he's referring to the entourage, the procession of offerings and gifts beforehand. Where does it come from? What is it? What does it represent? He said, this is simply something from me to you. And I want you to know that feel good about you. You're my brother. Some of the Midrashim speak of the fact that he maybe forgave the Bechorah that he took, that angered Esav. He maybe offered him as follows, Pasuk 10. But Yomer Esav Yesh li ra, achi, yihi lecha. I have a tremendous, well, fascinating response. He's correcting him. Some type of maybe misunderstanding that Esav has. But if I found favor in your eyes, I'd like you to accept my gifts. Because seeing you, your presence, like seeing the presence of God, and that has comforted me and appeased me. What's the meaning? What Yaakov's telling you, Esav? Is this flattery? Is this just pure appeasement? Is there sincerity behind this? What is this communication? And then the next pasuk, he not only begs him, but he profusely insists that he takes them, and he accepts all the gifts. Then Esav says, let's travel together. I'll go nechtecha. I'm right behind you. I'm right with you. Dachilak says, Yaakov, he has to think quick on his toes. He said, Hayladim Rakim, I have some young kids over here. Can't travel so quick like your men. I'm a wealthy man also. Son Bakar, you see the flocks of cattle and sheep, alot alai. Some of them are, some say that means some of them are giving birth, some of them are young babies. I'm going to be too pushy and too, rough with my treatment of them. They can't survive the trip. It's not practical, my brother. You go first. I'm going to go more gradually. Based on the ability of the cattle and based on the children, until I reach you, my master, my brother, Seir. Seir is in Edom, where he lived. What is Yaakov doing over there? He never went to Seir, never ever landed there for the rest of his life. Did he really intend on going to Seir? It's really way out of the way. He's coming eastward from Haran, and Seir is south of Israel. What does he even mean by that? Is he just, saying somewhat of a fib just to get out of a difficult situation? And then Esav said, let me leave some people with you at least. He says, no need, don't worry about it, don't bother. And then Esav goes back his way to Seir, and Yaakov goes to Eretz Yisrael, and that's the end of the story. I want to pull back on 4 different points of this story. And I'd like to unpack the depth behind some of the statements being made, the narration of the Torah, and the statements made by Yaakov Abinu. So the first was the embrace. So if you notice in the Torah, on the word Vayishlah, there's a dot on every letter. This was instituted by the Sofrim. We're talking about, obviously, this was not there originally, but this was instituted to for the sake of Perush, of interpretation. We're talking about thousands of years ago. And the rule is, the Midrash tells us, that when there's a dot or 2 dots or 3 dots on letters on a word, so if the majority of the letters are non-dotted, so you study the letters that are non-dotted. If the majority of letters are dotted, you study the letters that are dotted, with a dot on top of them. But here in this pasuk, what are you going to do? Every single one has a dot on it. You got to study the whole letter. And for that reason, the Midrash, there's a few different opinions, but does express, and as well as you can say the overwhelming majority of the Mefarshim, that this was, we call Nichmeru Rahamav, like we say about Yosef when he saw his brothers. No matter what Esav did and what he expressed, he wanted to kill. The last time that they departed and they were in contact with each other, Vayistom Esav et Yaakov ala berachot, and he became the Hargo. He's going to kill him. He's planning to murder him. And that's where we left off last 22 years ago, or maybe it was possibly 20 from this spot over here. And yet, brothers are brothers. Their blood. It's been a long time. Lots happened in between. And after all, Esav is child of Yitzhak Abinu. We know that he has some powerful traits to him. And Yaakov is who he is. He does the right thing. And at that moment, the Hachamim tell us, Vayishakehu, Vayibku. It was true. It was real. It was sincere. It was an embrace between Yaakov and Esav. Perhaps a symbolic embrace for sometime in the distant future. And a fascinating comment by the Emek Davad and Nesiv on this, in terms of its symbolism, and a historical truism that you see from time to time, and I believe we see right now, right here today. And that is, says the Nesiv, that at certain times, when Esav, whatever Esav represents, is inspired, he says, Beruach Tahara, in a saintly and pure spirit, to recognize and acknowledge the true identity of the Jewish people, of Yaakov, and to look up to them, and to understand who they really are, and compliment them, and elevate them. So then we also feel the same way. We reciprocate when we feel Esav behaving properly. And we find the good in Esav. And we do see in the good points of history, the golden age of Spain, right? There's certain decades and centuries here and there in Poland and other successful times where Esav, Umot HaOlam, and the Gentile nations embraced us, acknowledged us, looked up to us, and we did the same to them. And as I mentioned in the sermon last week in Shul, or 2 weeks ago, that we see in nowadays with all the evil and all the darkness going on right here and now in our current lifetime, in this very moment, we see a lot of light. We see a lot of conscious goyim that are enlightened, that are embracing us and defending us and acknowledging us and elevating us. We embrace them back. And that is a symbolic embrace, says the Nesiv, of Yaakov and Esav at that very moment. It's true and sincere, and it's repeated itself over history many times. And we hope for a permanent such embrace sooner nowadays. The next point to address is this statement of Esav. He says, Tfadal, Yaakov said, take it all. Esav said, yes, I got a lot, I got to tell you. And of course, so famously, do the Mefarshim compare that to the response of Yaakov when he says, he pleaded to him. He says, please take what I'm offering you. Because God has been gracious to me. I don't have Rav. I don't have abundance. I have everything. I have everything. What's everything? I don't know, $100, $1,000, $1 million, $1 billion. I have everything, he said. And of course, the Hachamim very much compare these two terms as perhaps being representative of the focused Jewish mindset versus what's out there in the world. The pursuit of wealth for the sake of wealth itself, for the sake of the power and prestige and honor that comes with the wealth, associated with the midah, with the trait of arrogance. I have Rav. It's Amit. Look at me. Look what I own. Look what I can buy. Look what I can tell you because of it. Look what I can do. Look who can't stop me. I have Rav. And the Torah-driven, focused mindset of the proper behaved member of Am Yisrael is Yesh Licho. Whatever I have everything. Obviously. Whatever I have right now, I have everything. I'm not in need. God granted it to me. It's exactly what I need today. I'll try for more if I can. But right now, I have everything. But you could that contrast. Rav versus Kol. The next point I want to address is the pasuk that comes afterwards. The reason that Yaakov gives him is because seeing you, Esav, is kirot penei Elohim. It's like seeing the presence of God. Really? Esav? Well, what does he mean by that? So there's some very insightful comments by our commentaries, Mefarshim, based on this terminology. Kirot penei Elohim. First of all, Elohim in the Torah is also describing a judges, prestigious people, like seeing a prestigious person. Sforno mentions this. And of course, a prestigious person is something that's honor for me. And you shouldn't come empty-handed when you see a prestigious person. The Abarbanel goes even further. Now, Abarbanel says, really, it's like Kirot Penei Elohim, because when we visit the Bet HaMikdash and we do see Penei Elohim, we say, Lo Yera'u Fanai Rekam, Penei Elohim. Lo Yera'u Fanai Rekam. Hashem says, don't come empty-handed. Bring korbanot, bring gifts. Alluding to that is Yaakov Abinu, that I'm treating this right now like a godly moment. And like a moment when we go, my children in the future, my descendants, will do Aliyah LaRegel and ascend to Yerushalayim, a pilgrimage on the holidays, and they will see the face of God, so to speak, the presence of God. And for me, that's what this moment is like seeing Penei Elohim. And of course, when I see Penei Elohim, you have to bring the korbanot, right? You have to bring the olat re'iyah, shameh nedaba, shameh hagiga. When you come up for the holidays, lo yereu fanai dekam, present yourself to me. And this is exactly what I'm doing right now. So there's a lot of careful language there being used in the expression of Yaakov Abinu. But there's another fascinating point that the Radak touches upon. And really, it's a brilliant expression, if you think about it right here, by Yaakov Abinu. Esav knew Yaakov. He grew up with him for decades. He knew him as a godly man. Maybe he was even a prophet before he left the house, because we see on the road, by Yisei Yaakov, he has this prophetic dream. So Esav was well aware. This was a man who was godly, maybe communicating with God. Maybe he's even aware of his different encounters with angels. And says the Radak, do you know what expression he was offering at that moment to Esav, besides all the respect and besides the, so to speak, maybe appeasement of Esav? He was also indicating to me that don't take me lightly, that seeing you is like seeing Penei Elohim, because you know what? I know what it's like to see Penei Elohim, and possibly alluding to the fact that, hey, I just got through seeing Penei Elohim, which is absolutely true, as the Malach appeared to him right before leaving Lavan's house. At the end of the parasha, the Malachim about to about to appear to him again, and maybe implanting a subliminal message in the mind of Esav, lest he think to do anything harmful. Seeing you is like seeing Elohim, because guess what? They're all around me, and they're visiting me all the time. So watch your step. Maybe a little, with all the nice message, possibly a little bit of a strong message built in over there as well. And finally, let's look at this last message that Yaakov leaves Esav. And that is after he says, I'll go with your brother now, don't bother, it's too much, too hard, do this, do that. You go first, right? And then I'll go slowly. Ad asher abor Adoni se'ira, until I reach you. Now, there's one midrash that says that this teaches us, for the sake of shalom, and this is not just shalom as in good feelings, this is real shalom as in don't get myself in trouble and live with peace and security, that you can fib and tell a white lie. And really, shalom is one of the excuses that we have in halakha, that allows us to fib a little bit if that's necessary. And there's a midrash that does express that. There are those who say that, like the Ramban, that this was not an expression of a neder. This was saying that, listen, there are different routes we can take, and instead you take this route, I'll take that route. And if I feel, in my other route that I want to detour and stop to see you, then I will see you. Okay. It wasn't necessarily a pledge. But what I want to reflect to you is what the Midrash does in a beautiful but powerful way, that really is Yaakov here prophetically, because he was a Navi. Unbeknownst to Esav, again, maybe the subliminal message, but the message being projected to him at this moment was exactly what we're about to read after the parasha in the Haftarah from Sefer Ovajah. And that is in the future. It speaks about Esav and Yaakov and the fate of both of them in the future. And of course, the famous pasuk that we read every day, Va'alu Moshi'im Behar Sion L'shpot et Har Esav. That the saviors, the leaders, will come from Har Sion to rule over Har Esav. That is Edom, that is Seir, that is the territory, that is the kingdom, that is the peoples, that is the population of the Gentile nations represented by Esav. And says Yaakov to Esav, brother, there will come a time that we will meet again. I don't know if it's very soon in my lifetime, and I don't know historically how many times that will be peacefully or aggressively, but I do know for certain that it will be a time that I will encounter and come to Edom, to Seir, to you, to Esav. And as the other pasuk that we say every day in Zechariah is Vayad Adonai lemelech hakol haaretz bayomu yeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. It's in that day that will be complete acknowledgement and recognition of the one single creator, and that on that time we, Am Yisrael, will have fulfilled our objective in this world in bringing light to the world. My descendants will visit your descendants, teach, guide, and pretty much be the masters of in this prediction, not just of myself, but of Kadosh Baruch Hu and all our prophets to come. That day, rest assured, my brother, I will see you again. In this powerful last words that Yaakov offers Esav. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.